Thousands of years ago, fear ruled the world. Every night brought hunger, cold, and unseen threats moving through the darkness. Early Homo sapiens were not masters of the land. They were fragile, exposed, and constantly tested by a hostile environment. Fire was still a recent discovery. Language was forming. Shelters were temporary and weak against the brutal winds of the Ice Age. Darkness was not simply the absence of light. It was danger itself. Among all the dangers, one stood above the rest: the wolf. Fast, intelligent, relentless, the wolf was not just another predator. It was a rival, a hunter that moved in groups, tracked prey with precision, and competed for the same food, the same territory, the same chance to survive. Humans did not fear the wolf because it was savage. They feared it because it was efficient. The wolf hunted out of necessity, not cruelty. It read the land, followed scent trails, and coordinated attacks with discipline. It was nature's strategy made flesh, and humans recognized that. Deep in their instincts, they understood that the wolf was not simply an animal. It was a mirror, another apex hunter shaped by ice, scarcity, and survival. Fear of the wolf became ancestral. It settled into stories whispered around fires, into warning glances exchanged at dusk, into the tense silence before sleep. Children learned early to listen for howls. Adults learned to watch the tree line. The wolf was always there. And then something changed. Before we dive in, comment where you're watching from and subscribe to Primal Roots. At some point during the Ice Age, a moment occurred that would quietly reshape the future of life on Earth. There was no battle, no dramatic victory, no single decision, just a shift, a pause in hostility, a moment where fear did not turn into violence. That was the night the wolf did not attack, and the human did not chase it away. Archaeological evidence suggests that around 30,000 years ago, during one of the harshest climatic periods in human history, wolves began approaching human camps. Not boldly, not aggressively, but cautiously, drawn by the scent of food scraps, by the warmth of fire, by opportunity rather than confrontation. The most aggressive wolves stayed away, or were killed. But the calmer ones lingered at the edges. They watched, they waited, and humans watched them in return. This was not domestication through force. There were no ropes, no cages, no commands. What unfolded was coexistence, observation, tolerance. Over time, tolerance turned into familiarity. The Ice Age landscape was unforgiving. Europe and Northern Asia were locked in cold cycles, covered in snow, populated by massive animals and constant scarcity. Survival demanded efficiency. Humans hunted in groups, relied on cooperation, and learned quickly or died. Wolves lived the same way. Two predators at the top of the food chain. Two social hunters. Two species shaped by the same pressures. Anthropology suggests that this shared structure mattered. Wolves understood hierarchy, cooperation, and group loyalty. Humans recognized those traits because they lived by them too. Slowly, the boundary between threat and ally began to blur. Some of the earliest archaeological discoveries show wolf remains buried alongside humans. These were not discarded carcasses. The positioning suggests intention, care, possibly even grief. These findings point to a relationship that went beyond utility. Something emotional was forming, even if neither species fully understood it yet. From a genetic perspective, this transformation was gradual. Wolves that were less reactive, more tolerant of human presence, had better access to food and protection. They survived longer. They reproduced. Over generations, subtle changes accumulated. Behavior shifted first, then physical traits followed. The wolves that stayed near humans became smaller. Their faces softened. Their ears changed. Their ability to read human body language improved. At the same time, humans began relying on these animals for early warning, protection, and assistance during hunts. This was the beginning of a silent pact. With wolves nearby, human camps became safer. Predators were detected earlier. Prey was tracked more efficiently. At night, the presence of another alert species increased survival odds. Wolves, in turn, benefited from consistent food sources and shared warmth during freezing nights. Neither species dominated the other. They adapted together. This alliance may have played a role in why Homo sapiens succeeded where other human species did not. While Neanderthals vanished, sapiens spread, expanding into harsher territories, adapting faster, forming stronger social networks. The presence of an animal ally may have tipped the balance. The greatest mystery is not how wolves became dogs, but why trust replaced fear. Perhaps humans recognized something familiar in the wolf's eyes, the same alertness, the same dependence on the group, the same will to survive at any cost. And perhaps the wolf recognized that staying close to humans meant life instead of starvation. Over time, the predator became a protector. The rival became a partner. The modern dog is the living echo of that moment, a piece of the ice age that still walks beside us, still watches us, still understands us in ways no other animal does. That night, when fire pushed back the cold and a wolf lay down near a human instead of attacking, history changed direction. Fear became trust, instinct became cooperation, and an enemy became family. The past did not disappear. It stayed with us, and it still howls. What began as cautious proximity slowly transformed into one of the most consequential biological partnerships in Earth's history. Humans and wolves did not suddenly decide to cooperate. There was no single moment of agreement, no deliberate plan. The bond emerged through repetition, through shared risk, through survival pressures that favored tolerance over conflict. Over thousands of years, this quiet coexistence reshaped behavior, biology, and destiny on both sides. As Ice Age climates intensified, resources became unpredictable. Large prey migrated or disappeared. Winters grew longer. Survival demanded efficiency. For humans, hunting success depended on coordination, anticipation, and speed. For wolves, the same rules applied. Both species were endurance hunters. Both relied on social structure, and both learned from experience. Living near one another created a feedback loop. Each benefited from the presence of the other, even without conscious intent. Archaeological sites across Eurasia reveal this slow transformation. Skeletal remains dating back tens of thousands of years show wolves with shortened snouts, reduced teeth, and cranial changes that differ from their wild counterparts. These were not yet dogs in the modern sense, but they were no longer fully wild wolves either. They represent an intermediate form, shaped not by captivity, but by selective proximity to humans. Genetic evidence supports this interpretation. Early dog lineages diverged from ancient wolf populations through a process driven by behavior rather than force. Wolves that were less fearful of humans gained access to food waste and protection. Those that reacted aggressively were eliminated. Over generations, natural selection favored traits associated with calmness, curiosity, and social tolerance. These behavioral changes came first. Physical changes followed. This process is known as self-domestication. It did not require human intention. It required only consistent environmental pressure and time. As wolves adapted to human presence, humans adapted in return. They began to recognize individual animals, distinguish behavior patterns, and anticipate responses. What started as tolerance evolved into expectation. With this expectation came cooperation. During hunts, these proto-dogs enhanced human efficiency. Their sense of smell extended human perception across vast landscapes. Their speed helped track wounded prey. Their coordination added pressure during pursuits. Humans, in turn, learned to read animal behavior, adjust tactics, and share resources. The hunt became a shared effort, even if loosely structured. At campsites, the benefits were equally profound. These animals acted as early warning systems, alerting humans to approaching predators or rival groups. At night, their presence reduced surprise attacks. Their bodies provided warmth in freezing conditions. Over time, their role expanded from opportunistic scavenger to integrated member of the group. This integration had consequences beyond survival. As wolves adapted to human social environments, their cognitive abilities shifted. Research shows that dogs are uniquely capable of interpreting human gestures, facial expressions, and eye direction. These abilities did not emerge randomly. They were selected for in environments where understanding humans increased survival chances. Animals that could anticipate human behavior stayed fed. Those that could not were driven away. Humans, meanwhile, began forming emotional attachments. Burials from the Upper Paleolithic period show animals placed carefully beside human remains, sometimes adorned with objects. These were not functional tools. They were companions. This suggests that, by this stage, the relationship had crossed a psychological threshold. The animal was no longer viewed solely in terms of utility. This emotional bond reinforced the biological one. Over generations, humans likely favored animals that displayed loyalty, attentiveness, and restraint. Even without intentional breeding, selective pressures shaped reproduction. Animals that fit within human groups survived and reproduced. Others did not. Slowly, the wolf lineage closest to humans became something new. The dog emerged not as a species created by humans, but as one that evolved alongside them. This partnership may have altered human history in subtle but decisive ways. With canine assistance, human groups expanded into colder regions and more open landscapes. Hunting strategies became more flexible. Settlements grew more stable. Mobility increased without sacrificing security. These advantages compounded over time. Anthropological models suggest that the presence of dogs may have improved food acquisition efficiency enough to support population growth. Larger groups meant greater knowledge transmission, stronger social bonds, and increased resilience. Dogs did not create civilization, but they may have helped make it possible. As environments changed at the end of the Ice Age, the human-dog relationship adapted again. With the rise of sedentary communities, dogs took on new roles. Some guarded territory, others herded animals. Some specialized in hunting specific prey. This functional diversity reflects early forms of selective breeding, guided by human needs but rooted in traits already present. Yet even as roles diversified, the core bond remained. Dogs stayed unusually attuned to human emotions. They sought proximity, responded to stress, and synchronized behavior with their human groups. No other domesticated animal developed this level of interspecies alignment. From a biological perspective, this alignment is extraordinary. Dogs evolved not just to live near humans, but to integrate into human social systems. Their brains adapted to interpret human cues. Their hormones responded to human contact. Mutual gaze between humans and dogs triggers oxytocin release in both species, reinforcing attachment. This chemical loop strengthened trust across species boundaries. This trust reshaped both. Humans gained a partner that extended their senses and strengthened their defenses. Dogs gained a stable niche in a changing world. Neither species fully controlled the process. Evolution favored cooperation, because cooperation worked. The dog's emergence was not a conquest. It was a convergence. By the time agriculture began, dogs were already deeply embedded in human societies. They traveled with migrating groups, adapted to new climates, and diversified alongside cultures. From frozen tundras to arid plains, they followed humans everywhere. Their presence left marks not only in genetics and archaeology, but in myth, ritual, and memory. Dogs appear in early belief systems as guardians, guides, and symbols of loyalty. These symbolic roles reflect a long-standing recognition of their unique place beside humans. The story of the dog is not a footnote in human history. It is a parallel narrative, a shared trajectory shaped by ice, scarcity, and adaptation. Two species changed by the same pressures, moving forward together. What emerged from that process was not merely an animal shaped for obedience, but a being shaped for connection. The birth of the dog was not the end of the wolf. It was the beginning of a relationship that continues to evolve. Firelight flickered against stone as wind swept across the frozen ground. Beyond the edge of human shelters, darkness stretched without mercy. The Ice Age world offered no safety, no certainty, only adaptation or extinction. Humans endured through cooperation, memory, and learning. At their side, no longer at a distance, lived an animal that had crossed a boundary no other species had crossed. The dog was no longer becoming, it had become. By this stage, the relationship between humans and dogs was irreversible. Genetic divergence from ancestral wolves had reached a threshold where returning to a fully wild state was unlikely. Behavioral traits favoring social bonding, emotional sensitivity, and reduced aggression were now deeply embedded. Dogs had evolved to live within human social systems, not merely beside them. This integration shaped the trajectory of both species in ways that continued long after the glaciers retreated. As climate stabilized toward the end of the Pleistocene, human societies changed. Nomadic patterns slowly shifted. Seasonal camps grew more permanent. Resources were managed rather than pursued endlessly. Dogs adapted alongside these changes, assuming roles that mirrored human needs. Some became sentinels, guarding territory and alerting communities to danger. Others assisted in tracking game across expanding landscapes. Still others remained close, reinforcing cohesion within growing groups. Archaeological evidence from early settlements shows dogs buried intentionally within community spaces rather than on their peripheries. Their placement suggests status, recognition, and belonging. In several sites, dogs were interred with grave goods, indicating symbolic value beyond utility. These practices imply a cognitive shift. Dogs were no longer considered external to human society. They were participants within it. Biological research helps explain why this integration endured. Dogs possess an exceptional capacity for social cognition. They interpret human gestures with accuracy, unmatched by other domesticated animals. They respond to facial expressions, vocal tone, and posture. These abilities were not taught through training alone. They emerged through evolutionary pressure favoring individuals that could synchronize behavior with humans. This synchronization extended to emotional states. Dogs became sensitive to stress, fear, and intent. Studies demonstrate that prolonged coexistence altered neurochemical pathways in both species. Oxytocin released during mutual gaze reinforced attachment and reduced aggression. This hormonal feedback loop strengthened trust over generations, creating a bond rooted in biology rather than culture alone. The effects reached beyond daily survival. As human societies grew more complex, dogs reflected that complexity. Selective breeding intensified as people recognized variations in ability and temperament. Dogs suited for herding were favored in pastoral communities. Others excelled in guarding, hunting, or companionship. This diversification occurred rapidly compared to most evolutionary processes, enabled by the dog's already flexible genome and social adaptability. Yet despite this diversity, a shared foundation remained. All dogs retained a strong orientation toward humans. Unlike other domesticated species, they sought interaction, guidance, and proximity. This trait distinguished dogs from livestock, which were managed, and from wild animals, which were avoided. Dogs occupied a unique category, neither resource nor rival, but collaborator. This collaboration influenced human expansion. Dogs increased the efficiency of hunting and protection, allowing humans to settle in environments that might otherwise have been inaccessible. In Arctic regions, dogs assisted with transportation and warmth. In open plains, they enhanced surveillance. Across continents, they adjusted to new climates, pathogens, and diets, evolving alongside migrating human populations. Their adaptability contributed to human resilience. Cultural records from early civilizations reinforce this biological narrative. Dogs appear in mythologies as guardians of thresholds, guides between worlds, and symbols of loyalty. These roles reflect their practical functions, transformed into symbolic meaning. What humans relied on for survival became embedded in belief systems and identity. Despite technological advances, the bond did not weaken. As agriculture, cities, and later industrial societies emerged, dogs remained present. Their roles shifted, but their social relevance endured. They guarded homes, assisted labor, and offered companionship in increasingly dense and stressful environments. From a scientific perspective, this persistence is remarkable. Many domesticated animals declined in importance as technologies replaced their functions. Dogs did not. Their value extended beyond efficiency. They fulfilled social and emotional roles deeply intertwined with human psychology. Modern research suggests that interaction with dogs reduces stress, improves social bonding, and enhances emotional regulation in humans. These effects are not incidental. They reflect an evolutionary relationship shaped by mutual benefit. Dogs evolved to respond to human cues, and humans evolved to respond positively to dogs. This coevolution reshaped emotional landscapes on both sides. The dog's presence influenced child development, group cohesion, and even conflict resolution within communities. By providing non-judgmental companionship and constant social feedback, dogs reinforced pro-social behavior. These effects likely amplified cooperation within human groups, indirectly shaping societal stability. The relationship also imposed costs. Dogs required food, care, and protection. Their survival depended on human commitment. That commitment persisted because the benefits outweighed the burden. Over time, care became expectation. Responsibility became norm. This dynamic reinforced empathy and long-term planning within human societies. The dog did not become human, but it became something no other animal had ever been. A species shaped not only by environment, but by emotional proximity to another species. Today, the modern dog carries the imprint of that ancient world. In its behavior, its gaze, its need for connection, traces of the Ice Age remain. The environments have changed, but the bond has not dissolved. What began in scarcity endured in abundance. The relationship between humans and dogs is not a relic of prehistory. It is an ongoing evolutionary process. Both species continue to influence one another, biologically and socially. The story did not end with domestication. It continues with every interaction, every adaptation, every shared environment. The dog stands as living evidence that evolution is not driven by competition alone. Cooperation can shape survival. Trust can alter destiny. And sometimes, the most powerful evolutionary force is not dominance, but partnership forged under ice, fire, and time. Discover how this ancient bond shaped who we are today. Subscribe and continue exploring the deep origins, hidden connections, and evolutionary moments that still define humanity.